Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. Today is the 24th anniversary of 9/11. I cannot believe it. A day that changed, of course, the course of American history and world history. So we are also coming off of another day that has seemingly changed the course of our nation's history, the assassination of our dear friend, Charlie Kirk. So joining us now to discuss both of these events is United States Air Force veteran. He's also the host of the Rob Maness Show and the founder and chairman of Gator Pack, Colonel Rob Maness, who was at the Pentagon during the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks. Colonel Maness, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to see you, John and Amanda.
Good to be with you.
Sir, I remember in the aftermath of 9/11, we came together as a country, ephemeral as it was, I suppose, when you look at the grand scheme of things, but I don't know if that would happen today. Do you?
You know, that's a good question. I don't really know, to be honest with you, considering the last day's events and everything that's going on. It's very tough to unify the United States of America right now, Amanda. On 9/11 itself, I watched an Arab immigrant stop his car and walk over to greeting people trying to save lives just north of the Pentagon on the lawn there. And start helping and pitching in. And he didn't have to do that. But you know what? He believes in America. I don't know that would necessarily happen today based on the reactions that you're seeing in the media, the social media, to our good friend and great American Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Colonel, we seem to sometimes find it hard to find our heroes today, people we can celebrate. Now, Charlie clearly was one of them. But on that day in 9/11, I know you saw so many. I lived across the street from a guy named Major Vic Badami, and he ran into the burning Pentagon more than 4 times to rescue injured colleagues, putting himself at great risk. President Bush eventually would honor him with an award. But you saw a lot of heroes those days, yourself included. Remind us what happened that day, because sometimes we forget how good America can still be.
Yeah, you know what? Our armed forces were on a footing of our global nuclear command and control exercise. I worked in the Nuclear Operations Division on the Joint Staff for the chairman and the Secretary of Defense and the President. And our aircraft, our personnel in our division were spread out all around the world at all of these command and control nodes. So that's what was happening in the Pentagon from my perspective at the time. And then the attacks began. And all of us in the National Military Command Centers just started pitching in and trying to get information so the decision makers, the senior personnel could start making decisions, especially when we realized that it was an attack on America. But, the amazing thing, the folks that are in uniform in that building are amazing men and women. They have signed up to give a blank check up to include their life for the Constitution of the United States. And their work really is amazing. But the awesome thing that I saw that day was when I left the building and was told to evacuate, I didn't leave. I went outside and started helping folks like the gentleman you just talked about. Those kind of people were bringing people out of the building that had been on fire, gravely injured. I met a man named Army Lieutenant Colonel Brian Birdwell, who's now a state senator in Texas. That was one of the 8 people or so that helped save his life. He was right where the aircraft hit. He was the executive officer to the Army general and his staff that was killed right there. He just happened to go to the restroom at the time the aircraft came in. So a concrete wall was between him and the aircraft, but he was badly burned, legs broken. I spoke to him for a little while until we got a good IV and some medical care to him and got him transported. But then the call came for people to go back inside to the courtyard to help fight the fire and see if we could save more lives, because all of these injured were coming from the outside of the building, people going in from the outside ring. So a couple of hundred of us volunteered to go back in, and we went through a corridor to get into the courtyard. And I ended up working with them right at the point where the cockpit of the airplane broke through the wall in the C ring, in the B ring, C ring alleyway. For most of the rest of the day. Unfortunately, we didn't find any more live victims, but we did a lot of work to save the building, keep it from burning down, identify classified information. That aircraft hit the brand new Navy command center that was in that section of the building, so classified material was everywhere. And identifying the aircraft itself. I was a trained aircraft safety investigator. at the time. And so a lot of us were doing that kind of work too. And we just worked to try to get the job done that day. And it was amazing because I saw from the lowest ranking enlisted person to generals all pitching in, getting on stretchers, trying to fight fires, identifying material. And none of them ever said, hey, we need to leave. They all said, we're going in, we're going forward, and we're going to get this done. Because the very next day, most of us were back at work in the National Military Command Center trying to identify who the people were that attacked us and help develop the plan of what the response was going to be. And I was very fortunate to get to be a small part of that.
Yeah.
Amazing people.
Colonel,
You're one of them, by the way. I just want to say
Absolutely.
that what you did that day, I know you
Really-
don't view yourself as a hero, but we view you as a hero.
Yes, we do. Colonel, when President Trump took office the first time, we were already at war in the Middle East as a result of 9/11 for 15 years. He comes into office and almost eliminates the Islamic Caliphate. Then 4 years later, Joe Biden comes to town and he kind of gives new life to the Taliban. What does it take under President Trump 2.0 to finish the job?
Well, unfortunately, one of the worst things that Biden did was he allowed all these Islamists to come inside the United States unvetted. And I'm going to link that to what happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday, because I believe, I know that Charlie, as a Christian, was leading with his faith. That's what was great about him, is that I admired him and I looked up to him as somebody. I may be older, but I felt like I was a younger Christian than he was because he was so good at leading with his Christian faith, and not with a chip on his shoulder, but to try to help people understand America and the ideals that underpinned America, and to persuade people, which he was successful at doing many, many times, persuading people that oppose those ideas to come to his side and our side and everything. And he had actually said something to the effect that Islam is the sword at the throat of America, and it will kill us if we're not careful. And that is actually happening in this country. The foothold is here. The Democrat nominee for New York City's mayor's race is what's called a red-green axis, the Marxist Islamist nexus of an ideology that comes together right there. He is both of those, and that should be getting everybody's attention. So President Trump's challenge is very great when we're facing the war in Ukraine that he's trying to end. He's trying to help Israel seek an end to this war against Hamas, which Hamas just needs to surrender at this point, because Israel's got to fight for its own life and the existence of its own people, in my opinion. The president's trying to help support, but really that's on Israel to get done, and they're getting there. But the challenge for us is we see all of these, and then that big adversary, the Chinese Communist Party, which is the red part of that red-green axis, and it's having its influence inside the United States. And I'm very concerned that we are going to see not a 9/11 type event, but an event that's 10 times bigger than 9/11. A lot of intelligence personnel, both inside and on the outside, are saying that that's probably going to happen more likely than not. So we've got to be prepared for that. And I believe that Charlie Kirk was speaking out and he was being effective. He's an American, and he's able to mobilize not just the 18 to 25-year-old young men and women generation, but multiple generations. Look, I've talked to my 16-year-old grandson, my 20-year-old son, and my 30-something-year-old son. All of them are avid followers and believers in Charlie Kirk and the ideas and the way he taught people and everything. So Charlie was effective at leading multiple generations of Americans that believe in the idea of American and our Christian foundation, and they couldn't let that happen. That's why I believe there is a connection there between foreign influence, bad actors, and the red-green axis that are inside the United States, and there's potentially even Ukrainian influence, because we know Charlie and people like Jack Posobiec are on their hit list.
Yeah. Sir, before we let you go, on that point of Charlie, we now know that the FBI has a photo of the man but can't find him anywhere in any databases to match up, which suggests he was off the grid here. give us your best assessment as an intelligence expert, as a military man, about whether this is a domestic or foreign, or maybe a combination of two. What do you think may be behind this assassination plot that we saw unfold yesterday?
Well, it looks very familiar, doesn't it, John?
It does.
When you look at it in the same context of the golf course assassin against Donald Trump, and then the Butler, Pennsylvania assassin, they look very familiar. They're well-resourced, they're well-trained, they have access to multiple digital communications devices, money and bank accounts, and in this case, it was much better executed, so the training's gotten better. And I believe, just like I believe the first two are operations of more than one person that are resourcing, training, planning, and then helping execute those operations, I believe the same thing is occurring here. The reason why the individual may not be in any facial recognition databases is because he may never have had a driver's license in the United States of America. He may, in fact, be from somewhere else. We just don't know at this time, but the FBI and the National Security Intelligence Agencies have to be looking at all probabilities and all possibilities in order to find out, and we've got to get this man arrested and incarcerated so he can't hurt anybody else.
Absolutely. Colonel, you are a patriot, you are a hero, and we appreciate you being here tonight, sir.
Well, thank you all, and thank you for honoring Charlie Kirk, too. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right, everybody. Coming up next, more on the manhunt for the Charlie Kirk shooter. Stay with us.